Hey everyone, welcome to The Grind. Can you believe it? It's already the end of the year. It's December. I can't believe this year just went like that. But yet here we are, and we're starting a new series. It's called The Miracle, and we had Ryan kickstart our series. But I know Christmas is like, the time where, people get together and it's all like full of cheer and joy and everything. And I definitely feel it. Kind of. Anyways, so, but I know it can also be a bit like stressful to deal with all that's happening. So for all our viewers out there, what is your best tip to stay calm and unstressed during the holidays?
Well, knowing that there are things you cannot control and just go with the flow.
So simple and short.
Yeah.
I feel for me is I relate to this statement with another kind of thing. It's another issue of like when do you enjoy the moment and when do you whip out your camera and start taking or your phone to take pictures to remember it, right? And me as a photographer, that has been one of my struggles. There's so many times I'm like, oh, that's such a nice picture. In my head, I'm just complaining like, that's such a nice picture, but I don't have my camera. And I think it's actually a lot of those moments is what made me develop this good habit of like, you know what? Honestly, living in the moment is better. I mean, there was a time where I was like, I see this beautiful like sunset. And I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna take a picture because the only camera I have is my phone, and I know my phone's picture would just make me disappointed, so I'm not gonna even take a picture.
Fair point.
The disappointment is what fueled me to not stress out about that. Yeah.
Disappointment fuels Dom. That should be his new like little tagline. Disappointment fuels Dom. But yeah, definitely I think to stay calm and collected during the holiday season is to enjoy the present moment. Like you can't control everything that comes your way, right? And as much as I would say Jesus is the reason for the season, I can't. It's too painful. Anyways, but yeah, it's just like at the end of the day, it's we're celebrating the birth of the Savior. And that should be our driving force. That it really was such a key moment in the history of mankind for Jesus to appear. And so we're going to talk about that moment because that's what Christmas is all about, is that moment. And so one of the things that Ryan talked about was how the history of the world hinges on two pivotal events, basically Jesus' first coming and his second coming. Obviously, we're talking about how now more so than ever that we're living the end of the end days, and so we don't know when the end days are coming, but it is going to happen. And so obviously in all of this, like we see wars, famine, whatever, happening, but God's sovereignty is there. So let's talk a little bit about God's sovereignty. What do you understand by that?
I think like what was mentioned in the sermon was that like the two important times is like Jesus' first coming and the second coming. And I actually wanted to bounce off of that. And I think that's what helped me understand God's sovereignty. There was a time where I was like, if Jesus came to earth to die for our sins, right? And that's basically fixed. That was definitely going to happen, right? And when he did it, he forgave the sins of the past and the future, right? So that made me, when I followed that trail of thought, I was like, then why didn't Jesus just come at the beginning and just get it one and done and over with, right? And I put this on my social media and just curious what kind of answers I'll receive. And I received two people gave the same answer, and I think this is the best answer, was that the purpose of the whole Old Testament was to show that like this is the man's attempt to do it, like being obedient to Moses' laws, right? And it shows that we couldn't. And that kind of put emphasis on why Jesus had to come and do it. And I think, and so this whole topic about Jesus, the importance of his first coming and the second coming, I think it was in that idea of me seeing it that way of how he thought of everything, right? He gave us, like how all powerful he is, he still gave us a chance. Even knowing that we will fail, he still gave us that chance. And I think that's what really helped me understand God's character and sovereignty.
Yeah, to me, God's sovereignty is He is the Lord of everything. He has the authority, and I know in the sermons we talked about how He's in control or in charge, but I'm still gonna say He's in charge, in control. He is also outside of the time realm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen a video recently presented by I think he's a criminology expert, and he tried to use his logic of stringing the pieces of evidence together and put together the red zone of where or when the victim must have like died in this specific time, and this specific time is caused by something before and then something after. So he was talking about how Jesus had to arrive at the time he arrived. During those period, many people are longing for a religion or believing in a God, and that becomes a common environment for many people. And then Jesus couldn't come earlier because in the Roman times is it peaceful, that 200 years of peace. And then during that time of peace they had the resources and the conditions to build all kinds of roads, so Paul and Jesus can walk along the roads quickly. And so and from that story it also tells that God has the master plan, and he is basically the producer, he's the director, and
soundtrack editor, everything.
It's like chess, man.
Yeah.
You're only thinking about your next move. He already checkmate, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's sometimes hard to, like, I know God knows the end game and he sees all play out, but then obviously us in our human minds, all we see is what we see right now, and it's so hard to trust in God's sovereignty because you can't see the game plan. Like if I say like, hey, can I flip to page 756 and then let me see that, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool, so this is what happens if I take this route, or this is what happens, and it's so many possibilities. It's like what, like, and God knows every single possibility, because so I would start reading this book called Midnight Library. I don't know if you've heard of it before, but it's a book of fiction. Basically, it's about this girl, and the premise is that she is taking her life, and then before she dies, like, she finds herself in this library where the books kind of like represent the different lives that she could have had, where one where she pursued to be a swimmer, one where she has where her cat's still alive, one where she got married. And so it's just like, I think if we were to look back at our lives, there's so many routes that our life could have taken. Like, what if I stuck to my guns and became an astrophysicist because that's what I wanted to study? I know it sounds really random, right? Or what if I stuck to my guts and became a graphic designer, or instead of like listening to my parents, that kind of thing. It's just like different ways that your life could turn out. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's like you never know, right? And so you just have to trust that in God's sovereignty, He has just led you where you're at right now. And maybe in God's mind, this was not the path that He had designed for me. That actually it was something else. Maybe there was other things I had meant to do. But for this moment, I guess in His way, we'll never know, right? The end game of God is that He brought us at this moment, right? So we never, so if we go back to the back of the time where people are like, oh, why was Jesus born at this time? Why couldn't He be born at that time to save us all from the Babylonians, or but it's just like, it's His sovereignty. Like, we can't understand it. He's, like, He's not the puppet master, but He's, bringing all the pieces into play. He is so many steps ahead, and sometimes we just have to trust that He has the bigger picture in plan, which is so hard to do. Easy to say, but so hard.
Yeah.
Would you guys say that you're, like, as you said, that we could, there's so many different routes we could have done, but like who we are today is kind of what God planned. Are you guys happy with who you are right now? What do you think you would have enjoyed astrophysics pet or
I mean, I get to go to space. Look,
Keith? Yeah. What do you think? Are you happy? Are you
No.
satisfied with who you are today?
No.
No.
No. I don't know. I'm still figuring out why everything happened. I mean, I can intellectually appreciate and give thanks for
Yeah.
what has happened, but
yeah.
but emotionally, no, I don't really know
Yeah.
what's happening.
It's right. Like you can look back, like, yeah, this could be the best play for my life right now. But then, yeah, you can't live in a life of regrets. Because if you do, then it's just you're always
yeah.
going to wonder with the what ifs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why another answer to the first question we had could be, don't think about
Yeah.
Oh,
what
yeah,
could
like-
have happened. That would be very very stressful.
Yeah. 'cause-
I mean, yeah. I think I tend to overthink. So I think that could be me. I was
Yeah.
like, what if? But I mean, like, yeah. I asked this question because actually, as you were sharing that, I started thinking like, am I happy with who I am today?
yeah.
And actually, I almost can confidently say yes.
That's good.
But wait.
Oh.
Because I was like, I'm happy, and I was like, I feel I heard this somewhere. Because as I made this statement, I was like, this sounds like I heard it. That there is a joy of being in the unknown, I think, and I maybe that's just having faith as my reassurance, I guess, right? Just embracing the unknown. But then that also leads me to believe that, am I just comfortable with because of faith of being in the unknown, or is this simply the being in ignorance is bliss kind
Oh.
of moment? Then that's where I was like, ooh, so which one am I?
Yeah. I mean, again, you never know, right?
Yeah.
Like hindsight's always hindsight. Like you look back, it's like, oh yeah, that's the reason why that didn't happen. Oh yeah, that's why I went down this route.
In heaven, you're just having this massive replay of your life. You're like, oh,
So
good call, God.
I was like, so that's why I didn't do that. I mean, I'm sure it's all pans out for the good. It's like, that's
Yeah.
the consequence of my action. I guess I had to deal with it. I mean, I'm sure like when we ever, I don't know, man, I might actually like cry when I see the game plan. But anyways, everything is appointed for a season. We just have to trust in the Lord's sovereignty. And so, you know,
That might actually even give more credit to his sovereignty.
exactly.
because
It's
of
just like,
this.
hey,
Yeah.
actually, he came at the right time. Like people say, it's never God's timing is always the right timing. You know, so
I'm so tempted to quote the Gandalf quote, like,
What?
a wizard's never late.
or
Nor
that
fear
too.
early.
Can I say that for me whenever I show up? Katrina is never late.
Just coming to work at 5:30 because I am on time.
I am never late. What are you talking about? It's what's the definition of late? But yeah, speaking of like appointed moments and seasons, like have you experienced any of God's appointed moments or seasons? Let's talk a little bit about that.
What would be? Well, how would you like define an appointed moment?
I mean, I think honestly, like just going back to even coming to ministry, like me being where I am at that
okay.
moment was a pretty God moment because, or even like me getting my first job, that was a pretty God moment because I first worked at this school, and the moment was like I came into the church office because I was actually looking for someone. Because during that time I was just doing, I forget what I was doing, but I remember what I was dressed. Okay, I was wearing a pair of jeans, a pair of Birks that I don't own anymore, and a t-shirt. Basically, this outfit I do not own anymore. It's like, and then a V-neck t-shirt with like some purple graphics. And I rocked into the church office, short sleeve, okay, mind you, like very casual. And I was looking for someone because I was supposed to start something with someone. And then a person, she used to work at ICA. She's like, "Hey, are you looking for work?" I was like, yeah, I'm still looking for work because at the time I was 8 months jobless, right? And she's like, "Oh, hey, so I know someone in this school who's looking for a teacher. You interested?" And I was like, sure. And she's like, "All right, cool. The school's in Tiwanshan." I was like, "Where the heck is Tiwanshan?" That's my first time going to like Diamond Hill. I kid you not. And all right, do you have your CV? I was like, I need to print it out. It was on my Hotmail, all right. And then so printed out, and I rocked up to that school. in that outfit because like I was in the office like around 12-ish, 12:30 or 1, and then they're like, oh, interview's at 2. I was like, well, I guess I gotta go over now, you know. So I basically rocked up with my printed CV in my very casual outfit. I was like, hi, I'm here to meet for an interview to teach. And then so she went around, and then cool, and then I left, and they're like, oh, do you want a job? I was like, let me pray, I'll think about it. And I was like being so like, huh? What just happened? Like I went into church office looking for something else or looking to speak to someone, and then I leave the day with a job offer? What? And I think that was a Thursday because I remember sleeping in on a Friday, and I think the person was really wanting to know my response, so she tried to call me, but my phone was like silent. I was dead asleep. This was like still noon. Okay, I was sleeping till noon, and then like then she called like the lady in the office. Hey, so does Patricia want the job? You know, we really want her. And then the lady called me. I think she called my mom to call me as well, and I was like, hello. Sorry, what? Oh yes, I'll take the job. And I was like, again, it was a whirlwind because I'm like, that was not what I was looking for. So I would say that was an example of an appointed time. And yeah, I think just everywhere, like how I found myself in like, you know, ending up in working at ISA, that was a point in time as well. Like had no intention. And then God's like, hey, you know, here's a door open for you. I could have said like, I'm good. You know, I'm actually, you know, called to something else, and I just walk away. But you know, you never know. So yeah, that would be an example.
Hearing that story reminds me of those. Have you seen those reels? It's not really reels, more of like an ad. Like there's a guy casually walking, and then one of the shop people just trips him, and as he's falling, he holds his wallet out, and as he's falling, he beeps the thing, and then pays for it, and then they hand it to him, and then like it ends with him like, you just purchased something like out of an accident. Have you seen those?
No.
No, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And I think that kind of like really shows God's character. I think it's moments like those that is like where you didn't really ask, but then that's like when Jesus like took the wheel. And I think for me, one that happened so recently was that when I hear this question, the first thing I think of is like, you know, we do these words of the season, kind of those things. And I was just talking to a friend recently about like words of the season, and she was like, oh, I haven't done that, you know, I haven't asked God for it. And I was like, oh, but you know, my recent one, I didn't even ask for it. It just happened, you know? And I think, so for you was a job, for me was clarity, I think. That this word of the season, that it was a theme that just started happening like day to day on like very unrelated, like the place and the event is like completely unrelated, yet I'm having this continuous theme, and I'm like, okay, I'm seeing, it's like God's showing me a glimpse of his plan. And because of that word of the season, it actually because of that word of the season, it really brought me out of this. I was near rock bottom, and I think to me that's kind of what was my moment for me.
Well, I'm a study person, so I'm gonna talk about school.
Sure.
And so I think my my entry into university, my bachelor's degree was quite God's anointed moment, because I was trying to get in HKAPA, and you have to be really good or know people to get in, and so naturally I couldn't get in. I was trying to get into the composition concentration, but then since I like movie music, my music wasn't avant-garde enough or contemporary enough for those people, because it is a very classical degree. So you had to basically master a classical instrument. So for example, violin or piano or trombone. And because I was into electric guitar in high school, or in general, I just like arrangement, so all kinds of stuff. So my skill was more horizontal than vertical, and so I didn't really practice my violin, but I maybe practice 1 week or 2 days, and naturally during that audition, I didn't even know I had to get a company pianist to back me up. I just thought I would go in alone, but actually other people auditioning, they had a pianist, they had other partners, and because I didn't practice, I haven't played for years. It was like really bad, the violin performance. And after the audition, you sit in the chair somewhere and face the panel, and the music director said, "Oh, your playing was really out of shape." And I was like, "Oh," but then because my passion was in composition, so I gave him a bunch of scores, and told him, "Yeah, my playing was really bad, but I really want to study composition, so I was applying here for your composition classes, for your recording studios, and etc. And almost at the end of the enrollment period, I guess how you call it, my mom tried to call the registry and ask about my status, and when the person answering the phone heard my name, I said, "Oh, you, yeah, you're in the waiting list. We'll call you soon."
No.
And then eventually I did got in with the waiting list, and then not to brag, but I think they didn't expect me to be the top person in class as well, like coming from a waiting list.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow, crazy how everything played out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so sometimes like when God appoints something, it's like, you know, it just happens. You just go with it.
Yeah.
So, you know, one thing that, you know, Ryan was just sharing, like, you know, a couple of his testimonies and how the Lord was working in him, right? And one thing that he said was how, like, he wants the heart of the Father to fill him again. How have we experienced that?
I wonder if this feeling is mutual, that, you know, sometimes we attend these like Christian conference or Christian camp, just big Christian events. At the very end, you're like on fire, you know, like, "Oh, I'm gonna preach the gospel to the first person I meet," you know, that kind of thing. And to me, I feel that is a glimpse of what it's like to have the Father's heart, just being filled by the Father's heart. Except, you know, I think there's a huge factor of being able to steward that feeling, you know, like if to metaphorically speak of, like, if that was like a flame, you know, you can't just let it burn on its own. You need to like give it fuel. You need to fan the flame to keep it alive, right? So I think when those moments happen, that I've made the mistake of not feeling the fire and not fanning it, and that fire always died down. And so I think God always wants to fill us out, but sometimes, maybe for me, I did not recognize it, and therefore I did not steward it. But yeah, me knowing better now, when that event happened again, oh man, I was like fanning it as hard as I can, and it was hard. It's weird. I don't know. I didn't think it'd be that hard, but to maintain my eyes on Him and to keep that flame alive was quite a challenge. But yeah, I think that's kind of my recent one.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, you do really want the heart of the Father to fill us, but then on the other hand, you do know that it's not really happening often. You're like tied down by many worries in life, and you desire many earthly things, and I could say it happens every day. Actually, this yearning for the Holy Spirit, for the Father's heart, because you have to forgive others, love others, have joy in the Lord, not joy or the so-called happiness in the short-term things.
Yeah, like, I think when you have like the heart of the Father, I think sometimes it's like it can come, like, you know, without expecting, but sometimes it's intentional. You have to ask, like, Lord, show me what you're feeling, what's on your heart today. And I mean, that's what Ryan did, which is why, you know, he felt the way he, you know, those things, and, you know, those God highlight those people. And sometimes when we talk about appointed seasons, we think about like, oh, you know, I was here at the right moment or whatever it is. But sometimes, like, you know, an appointed moment can be when God brings that person in your path. to minister to, and so like, which is what Ryan was talking about, how like, yeah, one by one, just go for that one person. And I think that's also like Heidi Baker's MO as well, that her thing is like, stop for the one. And I know in like, we relate it to Christmas, right? Like in Christmas seasons, again, we can get all caught up with like church productions and work and making things happen, events, all this tech stuff happening, and and so on and so forth. But I think we got to be like, hey God, like what is on your heart? Who is that one person that I can stop for to minister to? Maybe that one person who is having a hard time right now, where people are like, yay Christmas, but this person's struggling because maybe Christmas is a painful time for them, so I mean, that's also an appointed moment too. So I think with that being said, is like, yeah, with all of this happening, yes, God's sovereignty, appointed moments, is like, how can we position in ourselves where we can also be obedient to all of that is happening too.
Yeah, I've watched a reel about like the same person acting two different characters.
Yeah.
And the theme is about God's will. So like there are questions about, what job should I take? What should I do today? Which restaurant should I go to today? But then the God character would say, well, read the Bible. What does the Bible say? What's God's will? And the other character say, love God with all your might, and okay, and what's next? Love your neighbors as ourselves. Okay, great. And what's my mission for you guys? And it says, go and preach the gospel and make everyone disciple. And so the God character said, yeah, that's it. And so the question person was trying to say, so it doesn't really matter what job I do, what I do today, as long as I follow these like basic principles. And then the God character said yes. And I was wondering what you guys think about like
as in how what we think about like following the
basically, as long as we follow the main principle, it actually doesn't really matter what I do today or what job I take.
Starting a petition to change the lyrics. 'Tis the season to be jolly. It's 'tis the season to be obedient.
'Tis the season to obey him. La 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 la. Okay, I'm stopped. Yeah, I mean, it's a good thing, right? Like if we just follow whatever God says, like we should be all good, right? And then sometimes it's like, but then I also want what my heart wants too. So, and then there's this whole like, if you listen to the Lord, He'll fulfill what you want. But then sometimes also it's like, I don't know, really, like it's that struggle, because sometimes you have to get what you want, and then but you also want to follow the Lord. I don't know. So it's just like sometimes it's like, Lord, align me to your will. Help me see the world as you do, and help me want the things that you want. Like I know, those are easy prayers to say now. But then when in the heat of the moment, I don't think that's what I want to pray. I think I want to pray like, I want to see this happen, right? Sometimes the hardest thing to pray is like, Lord, align me to your will. And sometimes like when you pray prayers that are, like if you pray prayers like, oh Lord, use me as you will, that is danger. So, I think life in general will be good when you set your mind and hearts upon God. But I can guarantee you it will be easy. I think that's one thing I would say.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, what she said, because as you were sharing that your view on that, I'm reminded about the story of Jesus and the fig tree, right? And one of the analysis, did I even the right word? One of the lessons from that interaction was because I remember it said, I was reading it and then it said like, it wasn't even the fig season, and so that's why the fig tree wasn't producing fruits. So then why would Jesus expect fruits from it, right? And that ended up being like the moral is that like, doesn't matter in or out of season, when Jesus calls us to do something, we should obey, right? And like, yeah, like the fig tree just gonna go, oh, okay, fig trees, there you go, figs, there you go. No, like, yeah, I mean, that's hard. That's why he said it, that's definitely right, but it's gonna be hard. And
Yeah. No, because I feel sometimes, for example, when we have an astrophysicist offer and then we have a church work offer both at the same time, and then sometimes we tend to, I'm not saying about but sometimes we are too reliant on God and sort of use God's will as a scapegoat to not bear responsibility or not to analyze.
Yeah,
and not
that's
to,
a good one.
Yeah, but then again, sure, like we have to be obedient and be ready when God's called.
Yeah, I mean, because either way, like, you know, whatever path that we pick, I mean, I don't think if it's not meant to be, I think God will intervene in a way that may not be the most easy sometimes, you know, or it could be like, phew, you know, gone, right? It might cause a lot of heartbreak, but maybe that's, you know, I think He will intervene, you know. But if it's the path meant to be, I think, yes, it may be hard, but I think when they're, you know, it will like kind of like go towards, you know, better things. So I think it's trusting in the Lord's leading. You know, sometimes even though the Lord blocks, we might just want to push past because like that's not your sovereignty. Let me go past it, right? And then sometimes if He's set on it, He's like, it's gonna be there, like no matter what. So I think it's really just trusting. Like, all right, when you hit that door that's closed, then okay, like turn, follow where the Lord leads. Maybe you might go back to that path again. You never know. Maybe it's just not that season, but you know, sometimes we need to take a little bit of detours, but we just have to trust that, you know, maybe this way we get to see better things, whereas this way it's just like, meh, you know. So
If only if it was like your story about how you found your job.
yeah.
Oh, how did this happen?
Exactly. Like if only everything in life was like that.
Yeah,
But
if only.
yeah, but anything, you know, we just have to look out for the appointed moments, you know, those divine moments. And yeah, it is Christmas. Yes, the Jesus, you know, being the reason for why we do this. And yeah, so just trust that, you know, who God is and the moments that He brings in our lives and how do we steward them well. Cool. Well, that's that for today. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.